I mean, one of the things I love about your book, How to Make Great Decisions, is that we're just making so many decisions. And most people have never thought, okay, what is my process for making a decision? How do I make great decisions? How do I give wisdom a place in my decision-making process? Walk us through a little bit, like, what is your decision-making process? How do you counsel and coach other people to make decisions?
Yeah, well, Christian Smith, who is a sociologist, he used to be based out of North Carolina, I think Chapel Hill, but now he works at Notre Dame. He had done this nationwide survey on the moral lives of American young adults. And one of the things he and his team found, was that after researching thousands and thousands of young adults in America, 18 to 29, I think it was, he found the conclusion they came to was that the vast majority, over 66% of American young adults, had neither the ability nor the categories to make moral decisions. And what he meant by that was not the ability, because he's like, well, we're not the categories. They didn't have the words for it. They didn't have the words to be able to communicate. This is what good is. This is what bad is. In fact, sometimes the words they would use, instead of saying something was bad, they would say, oh, this is merely stupid. You're being stupid, that kind of a thing. So they didn't have the categories of either right or wrong. They also didn't have the categories of the act itself, the intention, the circumstances, those kind of things. But then the ability to make moral decisions. And he could say that because he said that so often a person would appeal to how they felt. They just appeal to their gut and said, I don't know how I chose it. It felt right. I kind of sort of wanted to do it. And so I just based that decision off of a feeling. Now, there's such a thing as intuition, obviously, but how do you develop intuition? And so when it comes to making decisions, whether they be moral decisions or otherwise, I think that there's a number of things we can do. And one is we can gather data. And I think that gathering data is one of the most basic things any one of us can do, but it's also something that we often can overlook. So for example, just look at the example of discerning a college to go to and say, okay, I don't know, should I go to this college or this college, college X or college Y? I don't even know. Well, okay, what are some points of data that you might want to even just discover? Well, this college X costs this much, college Y costs this much. Well, I don't know, are there any scholarships? Well, gather data. What is campus life like? Okay, gather data. And so all those things are just, you're not solving the problem, but think of it in terms of variables. You're trying to solve for X, but you also have all these unknowns. You have Y and Z and W and all these things. Well, if you can fill in some of those letters with actual numbers, with data, then you have a better idea, at least, of how to solve for X. So data gathering. The second is, I think, counsel. So counsel is very similar to data gathering, but it's not, it can be. I mean, you can seek counsel from somebody and get more data that way, but also counsel can often help process the data, because there's a lot that I don't know. I don't know how to process whether college X that costs this much and college Y that costs this much, how that could be offset by scholarships or by whatever, but someone else might. So seek counsel from every wise man, as scripture says. So first, gathering data. Second, seeking counsel. A third one is, I just think at some point we need to move, we need to decide. So that frightens a lot of people. We need to have courage in order to do that. But why it frightens a lot of people is because if I've decided, that means it's done. That means the decision's over, and it doesn't. What it means is I've tentatively taken a step. I've taken a step down this road that looks promising. I don't know where it's going to lead. I don't even know if this is the right step. But if I don't ever take the step, I will never know if that's the right step. And so the image I always have is the image of sighting in a rifle. So in Minnesota and other places in the country where someone goes out to go deer hunting, a couple weeks before you actually go deer hunting, if you have a scope on your rifle, you go to the firing range and you line up the target in the scope or in the sights, and then you have to actually pull the trigger. So you line it up. And you don't just walk away, say, oh yeah, it looks like it's good. You have to line it up, and then you have to fire. And then you see, okay, is it off in any way? Is it down into the left? Is it down into up into the right? And if it is, you adjust, and then you line it up again and fire again. And that is actually how you sight in a rifle. That's actually also how we're supposed to make decisions. we get data, we get counsel, and then we take a step and say, is this the right step? And if it's not, then we calibrate and take another step. And if it's calibrate and take another step. That's not failure. That's the process. And that's how it's supposed to go. It's not, I made this decision and now I just don't have to think about it anymore. It's made the decision to take one step, not to run the whole marathon.